Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Audrey Shantz and I'm a watercolor artist and a watercolor teacher, and we are here for our last December piece, and it's going to be something like this. There's all these different colors I can show you. A light bulb, which has got a highlight, it's got a shadow, and then we're gonna see how to do a bit of a glow around it as well. So we're gonna work on something like that today. And so let's get started. Let's first make sure that we have some kind of maybe a candle or something. Here's my lighter. And then we'll talk about supplies for a moment. You're going to need watercolor paints, water in some kind of a jar, maybe a towel or a paper towel. I like to use a size 10 round watercolor brush. We're going to need just kind of like a regular pencil and a kneaded eraser. There we go, mine was stuck. And let's see, 3" by 3" cold press watercolor paper is the kind that I'll be using today. And what else? Later on, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna link you to be able to make something like this over on my website. And I think that's all we need. So make sure you're comfy and cozy, and let's get started. All right, we're gonna take a minute to just observe. And so I've got lots of them here to look at, but basically we have one bulb. See, it's not even centered. It just doesn't matter. We're just learning how to do a bulb here. And we can tell that it mostly has an oval in the center. It kind of tips out here. It has some jagged lines that are imperfect for that base. And by doing so, we get a bit of a highlight here, which I think is lovely. And we'll just look at two of them at the same time for a minute. You can see how the one side is lighter. So for both of these, that's lighter on the left, where it has a highlight here, which we can get either, well, in a number of different ways. But for this time, we did it through just preserving our white space and just not putting any paint or water on the paper in that spot. And then we loaded in some darker paint through a wet on wet technique on this side, and we're going to do some lifting on the left. I'm going to link you to a few different videos that I have in my 30-day watercolor tips and tricks series that will give you like more in-depth info on lifting, on wet, on color bleeds, things like that. But you can see this one has the glow around it and this one doesn't. And what I love is I didn't touch the bulb. I got close and I left this white around it, which I really think sort of helps with the idea of a glow. You can see what you think, because right here, see, I don't have it. And I like leaving that little bit of space. It's cool to see what that does for the effect of light. Now this one, I didn't go around it perfectly, and I don't think it makes quite as much sense, but it's okay. I still love it. Look at the different colors of blue. On this one, I added in sort of a turquoise or like a more of a greenish blue right here. So we actually have more than just one color of paint we're working with. And you can always do that when we're working with wet on wet. And I'm just showing you a couple more, and then we're gonna get started. And you can just see the different colors. You can think about what color you want to do your bulb today. You can see this one has darkness over here as well. Maybe you like it that way. That's up to you. I'll let you compare it. See, I got a little bit of darkness on the other ones too, but just a little. Here's a purple one. So whatever color you want to grab, go for it. And then we are going to need our, I'm trying to find one to use. We're going to need our pencil, our watercolor paper, and I think I'm going to use, decisions. I'm going to use the red because I like how this one has the glow on it. And this one's done with just one color of paint, where this is an example of adding in that other color. So I'll remind you of that when we get there too. Let's get out of the way what we don't need. And I painted my nails just for you guys today. Well, I always paint them, but they needed a fresh coat. Okay, so we're going to start, as always, with these large shapes and how we see that on here. It's almost like an egg, but I like to think of it as an oval instead, and just ignore this tip, okay? And this will be an overlapping rectangle, okay? So somewhere in the center of your paper, and as always, we will press lightly on our pencil. We're gonna put an oval, and I like to make it kind of go like diagonal. So I'll turn this, and you can make it whatever size you want. I'm trying to decide how big I want it. And I'm just gonna start, see how I kind of like put some guides of where I wanna go, and then I'm gonna lightly connect them into an oval. This is a nice fat oval, but I like that, I think. And then I'm going to take this one side and bring it out just a little bit further and a little bit more like pointed. Okay, so you see that, and then we'll round it out right here. So basically like that. Okay, you can go ahead and grab your kneaded eraser if you want and just erase what's in there that we don't need before we even move on. And then if you'll notice, this little rectangle cuts off the bottom of our oval. Our oval maybe would have gone just a little bit further. And we'll do the same thing here with a straight line first. And you can decide if you think that that is going to be where you want it. You could even like lay your finger over it, because this is like a rectangle, right? Does that look like where you want to cut it off? But anyways, we'll do, and you could even do like straight line, lump, lump, lump. See, bump, 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 however you want to say it. And then just erase what you don't like. We never need it to be perfect on the first try. And something like that. I want it light because later on, if I don't want it, I may erase it, but I will show you. Look, I didn't erase it here. This one I didn't bump it in, so you could just do a rectangle or this. Does not matter, okay? Whatever one feels better to you. And that's all we need for our sketch. I guess if you wanted to put one more part in, you could put a little highlight here. I don't usually do it because it's just the way I'm going to use my brush is gonna, I'll show you when we paint. But if you are like, I just want to remember it, you could put this here. And if you're going to, I would follow this outside curve on this side of it here. And that's what's going to make it look like it is the correct shape for like the form of a bulb. Okay, that's it for our sketch. That one was easy. And so what we're going to do next is it's time for you to make a decision. You're going to choose what color you're going to use. And I am going to, I got to shift a couple things around over here. But I am going to, ooh, do I want to do that red? I think I'm going to do red because when I show you, if I do colors like orange, I feel like it's a little harder for you to see, but reds, blues, purples are going to be kind of bold. So I'll do something like that. You can spray all of your paints ahead of time, or you could just spray the color you're going to use. You know, it doesn't matter. I actually think I want to use this one, which is completely covered in another color of paint. So first I'm going to take a wet brush and just like wipe all that off. And yeah, much better. So I think I'll use the fourth one down here, and I'm going to make a little puddle. Now, as you're testing it out on your paper, you need to just make sure you like it. You're the one who matters. I don't like it. Let me zoom in for you. There you go. Mine's not red enough, so I'm actually going to maybe get into this color above it, and I just want a deeper red for this. So make sure you take your time on this part where you can kind of go like, yeah, that is what I want, or wait a second, that's too orange, or it's too muddy, or whatever. You might maybe needed to clean your paints. Like, it doesn't matter. And just like for mindfulness for a second, it's pretty to look at your water and just like take a second now and again. Watercolor isn't something that we need to like race through, you know. Okay, so I've got my puddle here, and that's actually all I need. It might be a little darker than I need. Let's think about this for a second. I'll probably add a little bit of water to it, but I want you to remember where you took it from. So what we'll do is we'll paint, we will lift for our highlight, and we will load in darker paint. So that's like 3 things that we're doing on this. And I'm gonna move this out of the way now. Zoom in for you. And I'm gonna grab my paint. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you the whole thing. I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to just kind of tap it on my towel once maybe, okay? And then from here, I'm gonna get into that paint that I just created the puddle for. And I'm going to take the tip of my brush around the edges, okay? And I need to have enough water and paint that it doesn't just start drying immediately when I put it down. Okay, so I'm tip of my brushes along the edges, but notice right here, I just did one swipe. I'm gonna skip a space and do another. There's my highlight. I'm going to sort of quickly fill in the rest of it because we wanna do this efficiently so that the whole thing is wet at the same time. Okay, I just cleaned my brush out in the water, dried it on my towel, and now I wanna lift right here, right alongside this so it stays on that left side. Notice what I did. I'll do it again. I cleaned my brush and dried it. I'm going to press down following that same curve, press and lift. And now it's still a bit wet, so the paint's going to keep creeping back in there. So it might take a few times, or we might even load in our other paint and come back and look at it. So now should all still be wet. And the reason I can tell that is because I can see the light shining on it, reflecting off of it, right? So I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to go right into my paint, not my puddle. Okay, and we sprayed it, so it should be just a little bit wet. And now we're coming back and we're going to load that right in. Now, if it doesn't go very far, you might want to add just a little bit of water to it, okay? Water is what's going to make it travel. But if you put this color in and it just like flew across, you just have a little bit too much water, okay? So you'll make whatever adjustments you need, and that's different for all of us. I loaded it in on this right side. Like light would be over here, shadow would be over here, okay? I'll do just a little tiny bit over here, which means I do want to limit my water on this side. I don't want it to go too far, just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to clean my brush and I'm assessing. We're all going to look at what we've got for a moment. And I really like it. But I think one thing I want to see is a little bit of darkness here. So I just went into my puddle, the one that we created with water and paint. And I'm going to load in a little bit more right here. Clean my brush out. Dry it on my towel. And come back and do another lifting here so I can get more of a highlight. So what I really wanted to see was light, medium, dark, teeny bit of dark over here. And if you want to see yours a little differently, just play with it. But this is the basic technique for anything, to be honest, with wet on wet technique, where you want to have light and shadow, okay? By preserving this space here for that highlight, we really got a bold highlight, much bolder than just lifting. But by also lifting, I think it gave us like 4 separate spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we love that, right? So now I want you to look at it. Make sure you like it. And then I want us to take it to our dryer. I've got a little heat tool over here, and that's what I'm going to use to dry mine. If you would rather let this dry on its own, you might get a little bit more interesting markings like this that you don't get maybe as much of when you're speeding up your drying time. But then if you're going to do that, maybe just pick another color for a minute and practice with another color, and then hopefully when you're done with this one's dry. So that's up to you, but I'm going to stop for a minute and give this one a dry. Now I didn't need to dry it because this is going to have some white space around it, and then this could overlap or not, right? But I wanted to because it just sort of takes one thing off of our mind. We know our colors are not going to bleed, and so we're safe to work around and over it. So what I want to do is save the black for last, and in watercolor we go light to dark, so that works out anyway. And I want to start to add what's going to be this really lovely glow around the side of my bulb. And so I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Let's get right here. I'll show you my my puddle. I'm going to dip the maybe the first third of my brush in my water, because that's what I needed to make this a puddle again. Nice and easy to move. Our puddles should be puddly, so we've got to have water in there, okay? And then I'm going to show you. I would rather you probably watch me for a moment and then do it, or do it like rewind it and do it with me, because this part's really cool, but there's something about timing in watercolor, so this might be one you want to watch. I am going to take my brush and I'm going to leave that white space, but put the tip of my brush and run alongside. Now notice how wet it is. You can see the light reflecting. Got a little closer than I wanted there, but that's okay. I'm going to keep it moving. I am leaning into the belly of my brush, not just going like this, okay? All the way around. I just grabbed a little bit more paint all the way around. It's all still wet, okay? I just made it a little rounder. Clean my brush in my jar. Wipe my brush on my towel. Actually, I just tapped it like twice, okay? Actually, then we'll put the tip of our brush into some water, and we're going to put water alongside. And look what's doing. It's softening up that outside and letting it just sort of fade out. Beautiful, right? And then you can decide where it starts and where it ends. I like it to be here, so then it's really coming from the bulb, not the base. And I actually don't need to do anything else, but if I wanted to, I could add a little bit of darkness, still wet on wet, right? So this would come from maybe a combo of your paint and your puddle. And before it starts to dry, I can add just a little bit more right around it. Now this is about timing, and it's not necessary. So there may be times when you're doing this where you do add this little extra bit, and there may be times when you don't. I think you could go either way, and it would be really great. Now I could go in here and do this little base, but if this is wet at all, black is gonna just whoosh, and we don't want that, right? Because we love this. So we're gonna quick dry it one more time. All right, it's beautiful. I love how it looks. I feel like we really accomplished a very beautiful glow and dimension on our bulb. So now notice that this is pretty opaque. It's nice and dark. It's not gray, it's black. Okay, but we also need control because we're doing it. We want to leave some white spaces in there as well, which would be like a highlight on the silver if you think about it, but we're just doing it with black. So what I'm going to do for this, and I'll just show it to you, is my black is up in this top corner. I'm going to dip the tip or maybe the first third of my brush into my water only. Okay, and I'm going to come back to here, move my brush around, and I'm making a little puddle that is small, and it's mostly paint with a little bit of water, right? Okay, so I'm coming here now, and I want to do 3 swipes. 1, 2, 3. I want to leave a little bit of space, but I'm actually not going to be too perfect or precious about it. I'm just going to get them in there. So just want to make sure. I feel like maybe I had just a little bit more water than I wanted. So I'm going to swipe across right here. 1, 2, 3. And if I don't like that and I want to connect them, I could give a little connection real quick while it's wet. But that's up to you. I think it was great the other way. It's great this way too. Because we have white out of our paper as our highlight, it looks like a highlight here as well. So I'm a big fan. I'm going to add just a little bit more here because I want to darken it up. So I'm doing that while it's wet so it kind of blends. But that's all it is different swipes. And if you look at these ones, notice how they're all different. And I love the style of it, to be honest. I don't need it. I don't need the highlight to go through the center, but if it does, great. And there's all these different versions. This one doesn't really have white space throughout, but it's jagged on the edges, which works too. So lots of options for that, but it's just swipe, swipe, swipe. Okay, you can practice that as always on another piece of paper first. So I think that's basically it. So now, I mean, I want to show you an idea that I like. I've done this for classes the last handful of years when I had a shop and I did in-person local classes. And here's what we turned it into. And so I'll show you how to do this step by step, getting these really lovely blends of different colors, how to get our line through it and everything. If you want to go to my website, I'll have this tutorial there that you can purchase, and we'll walk you through the whole thing. That was always one of my like biggest seller classes because I think it was a real cute one. So anyways, can't wait to see what you do. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.